Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news. As breaking news is that Manchester United and one other club are leading the race to sign Cherki from Lyon. Is that still a deal you'd want to be doing? Is it the right deal for Manchester United to be doing? We've also got a ridiculous message to Cunha coming in from a legend of Manchester United. Basically, sort of saying, don't join us. You're meant to be bigging us up, mate. You're meant to be the guy saying, come to Manchester United. It's a weird take. It's an honest take. Is it a fair take? I think it's a ridiculous take. We'll talk about that as well. Also, a bit around Gyokeres again this morning. Obviously, we spoke about that in the show on the 8 o'clock show last night. If you didn't see the 8 o'clock show last night, by the way, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. One of the best 8 o'clocks we've done in a while. Loved that. Check it out on the homepage. And also, look, the price of success. Liverpool are going to spend a lot of money in the transfer window to reward Slot for winning the league. It's almost like being successful breeds the opportunity to spend more money, and being unsuccessful breeds the opportunity to not spend money. And we know where we're stuck at the moment. Lots to get into on the show this morning. Few other bits as well. I am live with you at 2 o'clock today. Beth is flying to Spain. Viva España. So I'm on the 2 o'clock show. So I'm going to do a live preview of the Bilbao game because I'm bloody excited, to be honest with you. Very, very excited. Apparently we're breaking up this morning. Are we breaking up? I didn't know about that. I don't know what to do. I honestly don't know what to do when it does this. Is it the audio breaking up? Is it the stream that's breaking up? Because I go live, it says stream is bad connection. It's not from my side, I'm sorry. There's nothing wrong with my internet. It's running perfectly. People refresh and it works. Sorry, I'm just going to carry on. I can't do anything about it. Sometimes it's my fault. Sometimes it's, audio, but I can't do anything about it. Perfect. Let me have a quick look. Stats. Yeah, no drop rates and a perfect stream into YouTube. Can't do anything. Okay, let's get into the show. So let's talk about Cherki. So this is breaking news this morning. It's coming in from court offside. Now, Fabrizio does work with them, Ben Jacobs, etc. So, look, I'm not going to, dismiss it as completely and utterly ridiculous because we have been linked to Cherki in the past. What they're basically saying is that Manchester United and Tottenham are leading the race for Cherki at this moment in time. He was expected to leave Lyon. Now, we played against Lyon, obviously, big games, and he played reasonably well. There's a lot of people in this chat. There's a lot of people in the Man United community that are very excited about Manchester United doing this deal. I've got to be honest, from my point of view, I think he's 22 in August. He's very talented. I don't care about the grabbing of the crotch. I don't care about the disrespect to United fans. He wears a Lyon shirt. I actually see that as a positive. I think if he's wearing your shirt, he's obviously very passionate. We were the enemy. We were the team he was trying to beat. He's paid to beat us for Lyon. If he wants to give it a little bit to our crowd or anything like that, I see it as a positive because he'll do the same when he's wearing a Man United shirt. So I'm not bothered about that. Is he a bit of a learner driver in relation to his, the youth aspect of it? Then is this stream just not worth doing? Shall I just stop doing it? Is it just stop and start again? Because if it's that bad, I'll stop it. I'm not going to waste my time or your time doing a stream if there's a problem with it, because I don't really understand what it is. Why continue when no one hears you? It sort of ruins the show, this has, hasn't it, really? Somebody says if you leave YouTube, it needs to refresh. Okay, I'm going to carry on. It's fine. Thank you. Look, you're the community. You let me know. I don't want to do something if people can't hear, and some people are saying it's unwatchable. I think from the chat, close YouTube, go back to Twitter, click the link again, refresh it. I think that's what you need to do. There's obviously, definitely an issue this morning, says Robert McCormack. Yeah, I've got no idea. It's out of my hands. I think there's a YouTube problem because Robert McCormack's super chat hasn't even come through YouTube. It came through the live chat there. So I think we've definitely got problems this morning. Onana has been linked to a Premier League club. Okay. Okay, I'm going to carry on because it's fine for everybody else. It's fine for some people. Close YouTube and reopen it, says Slow Sports News. There we go. Okay, so we're going to carry on. Sorry for that if you've been fine for a while, but there's a lot of people in the chat and we are a community, so I'm just trying to help them out. So we'll just have to keep telling them in the chat. If you've got a problem with it, either go back 20 seconds, as our editor said, don't watch it live, sort of knock it back 20 seconds, or close the app completely and come back in. That should help. Right, let me carry on with Cherki then. So, yeah, Cherki, Manchester United and Spurs are the two favourites to sign him as of this news story coming in from Court Offside. He'd be 22 in August. He played well for Lyon. A lot of you like him. Do we need him if we're getting Cunha? Well, I'm never going to be somebody that says don't want another player that's quality. Like, I'm not going to say that, but do we need to buy him when we could get use that 25, 30 million towards a midfielder? No, we don't need him. Or a centre-back? No, we don't need him. Or a better striker? We don't need him. If you're saying to me, we're going to spend £30 million on Delap, £30 million on Cherki, and £60 million on Cunha, then I'm going to say, don't spend £30 million on Delap and Cherki, just get me Gyokeres and Cunha. So that's where I sort of sit on this. I don't see the point in getting Cherki and Delap and Cunha when you could get Cunha and a top striker. And that's what I'd be looking to do. Do I believe that it's a race between Manchester United and Spurs for Cherki? Well, if it's a race between Man United and Spurs for Cherki, we've won the race, surely. Unless he likes that empty, lonely feeling of never touching silver. I mean, apparently, if you signed for Spurs, your cutlery has to be plastic. You're not allowed to have metal or silver cutlery because they don't want you to get accustomed to thinking that you're going to win trophies. So, you know, that's in your contract. So if he doesn't want to touch metal for the rest of his career, then he should be coming to Manchester United. But I don't think it will just be Man United and Spurs, if I'm being completely honest. I think it will be other clubs interested, and I think he will probably want Champions League football. And Man United and Spurs may not get Champions League football if we get knocked out by Bilbao and they beat Spurs in the final, which I think they would. So, and I think that's an interesting thing for 2 o'clock as well about the final. But if we get to the final. But yeah, look, it's always encouraging to be linked to a player that I know a lot of you like. But I'm not, if I'm completely honest, we have been linked to Cherki. We might sign Cherki, but I'm not actually that obsessed about signing him. It's not the same as Cunha for me. And we have got a lot of players that can play that position coming through and currently at the squad. So, look, if you're selling Garnacho and you bring Cherki and Cunha in, and we know that Mason Mount's a waste of space, it's not a bad idea. But it's not a deal I'm absolutely obsessed with. He's definitely talented, and if he came to the club, I think we'd all be very excited. But I'm not actually that, you know, bothered whether we do the deal or not. Welcome to the members club, Thomas Gardner, by the way. I think it was Garfield saying the other day that he couldn't find the member button, so I put the link in the live chat. If you want to become a member, do that. There we go. Yes, thank you, Jason. If somebody's having a moan about the story, it's a news show. We've been doing it for 10 years. Thank you very much for that. Now, what I do want to talk about, and this to me is probably the big story I want to really get your opinions on this morning. There is a story that's just come in the last hour from, I think it's from Germany. Christopher Mikel. Is he based in Germany? Fuzzball News saying that to have a good chance of attaining Gyokeres, Manchester United would have to win the Europa League. The player wants a club who will play in the Champions League next season. I mean, I'll tell you what, I don't know the validity of that story, but if you watched the show last night, I'm absolutely obsessed with Man United buying a seasoned, experienced striker. And if there is any opportunity for us to get Gyokeres, we should be all over it. So, look, if there is an opportunity that if we win the Europa League, he'd still be open to come to Manchester United, that would be great. I mean, imagine the scenario if Gyokeres is basically saying, I'm not talking about Manchester United unless they win the Europa League and are in the Champions League, but if they do that, I want to go there. I mean, that to me would be great. And look, maybe I'm clutching at straws, maybe I'm being, you know, a prat. It wouldn't be the first time. But why would Gyokeres be linked to Manchester United if being in the Champions League is important to him? Cunha, the story with him is that he doesn't mind. He wants to come to Man United. But if Gyokeres wants Champions League, why would there be a story about Gyokeres and Manchester United? Maybe he's just said, look, I'm not going to make my decision until early June. And if you're in the Champions League, I will speak to you. If you're not, I'm wasting your time. I mean, that would be great. I still think that he probably is going to Arsenal, but I hope not. I hope there's something in that. But look, we spoke about that a lot last night, and basically, why are we not looking at this deal? And can I just say this as well? Yes, I can. I would like to send this message to every pundit in the media, and you can steal this from me, because some people do, who criticises Amrim's style of play, who criticises Amrim needs to get more out of these players, who criticises that, you know, he shouldn't need a pre-season or a transfer window, who criticises that he's not developing players. He's been here for 4 months, 5 months. He's not had a transfer window. He's not had a pre-season. In our last few games that we've actually not won, we should have won all 3 of them. We should have beaten Man City, Wolves and Bournemouth based on chance creation. So there is improvement. But if you're going to criticise the guy, maybe do your homework. When he went to Sporting, it took time for him to rebuild that football club in his vision. But also, if you actually did your research on Amrim, he took a striker from the Championship that nobody was really bothered about and turned him into one of the best strikers in the world. And his name is Gyokeres. So don't talk to me about Amrim's inability to get the best out of what he's got, because he's literally built a career on doing that and developing young players as well. So look, I think we'd be foolish if we didn't get to go for him. Will game go ahead with power cuts in Spain, says Brent. I've not even heard of this. What is this madness? Cherma says, hi Mark, win or lose, United stand has been amazing from the US to watch and help follow United. You guys are all the best. You're an absolute legend, Chermo. Let us where you're watching one. If you've got any problems today, just close YouTube and come back in and start watching again, and it will be fine, apparently. Right, this is the story I want to talk about. This is where opinion matters. This is a divider this morning. A lot of people have been talking about it. I absolutely agree with people who have highlighted this because I think it's really important. I just think it's unfortunate that it's Scholesy, because I'm a big fan of Paul Scholes. Really do like him. And I think sometimes he talks shit and sometimes he talks sense. Same as me, same as you. Nobody is perfect. But I think he speaks more sense than some of the ex-players at times. But I've got to say, I'll read what he said and then you can make your mind up without my opinion for a few seconds. So this is a direct quote from Paul Scholes about Cunha coming to Manchester United. Cunha is obviously athletic and he's got quality with 15 league goals this season. I just worry for any signing coming to Manchester United at the minute. It just feels like it's such a bad place to go. The quality of play right now is so poor. So, Cunha's a good player. I just worry for any player coming to Man United at the moment. It's such a bad place to go. I think that I applaud Paul Scholes for this comment. Shock, horror. What are you talking about, Mark? What are you talking about? I applaud Paul Scholes for his honesty. I don't want people to lie. I want them to tell the truth. But it actually evidences and verifies what we've been talking about for a few years now, all the way back to Jose Mourinho. These ex-players behave like they want Manchester United to fail. These ex-players live off their amazing legendary status and don't seem to want to contribute to a new successful Manchester United. That's fine. I'm not going to criticise it. I'm not going to slag Paul Scholes off. He's a legend. He's a brilliant player and I like listening to him sometimes. But I would say this to his face and I would say it to Gary Neville's face and I would say it to Roy Keane's face. I would say, look, in the years I've been listening and watching you, it feels like you want us to fail. And I understand it. Because if you've been really successful at something... Look, in the snooker at the moment, the World Championships are going on. Stephen Hendry for years had 8 world titles. Ronnie O'Sullivan got 8 world titles and he's still in the tournament now. So if he wins it, he could get 9. Stephen Hendry did an interview last week and said, I'll probably be commentating on the final. I will absolutely hate it if Ronnie wins 9 titles. Not because I dislike Ronnie, he's the greatest player the game's ever had, but because my record will be gone. And only somebody who doesn't have a winning mentality is going to like the fact that your record is gone. So it's 7, not 8, sorry. Either way, the story is right. Some people who are successful in life are bitter about other people coming through and being successful. I think the professional footballer is very bitter. I've been around a few. They're not bad people, but professionally, I think they become very bitter because they retire, but their brain can still do it. Their body can't. And they see people doing it and they know they can do better and they get a little bit bitter. And I think that's what I would say, and we have said this for a while. There's not many ex-players out there who are actually, I mean, Rio's the other way, isn't he? He's just an influencer. He's just like stupidly over-optimistic about stuff, I think. But I wouldn't also put him in the same category as a Keane or a Scholes. But they act like, what I would say is this. Going back to that comment, Cunha's a good player. I just worry for any player coming to Man United at the moment. It feels like such a bad place to go. Like, you're saying that publicly as an ex-Manchester United legend, well, as an ex-Man United player and a legend, you're saying, I worry about why he's going to Manchester United. It's such a bad place to go. You're meant to be bigging us up. You're meant to be like an ambassador, whether you're paid or not. Like, this football club is meant to run through your veins. Like, if Cunha sees that from Paul Scholes, he might go, maybe I shouldn't go. Like, really, what's going on? We need these ex-players to lie. We need these next players to help us, because the only way we're going to get better, when we sit and say, how do Man United get better? We're not going to get better by good players saying, I don't want to go there. We're going to get better by good players coming to Man United. So even if we need to spin it a little bit, we need to spin it a little bit. It's not good when someone like Paul Scholes is saying, you know, I worry about Cunha going to Manchester United. It's such a bad place to go. I worry about that. He's telling the truth. I'm not slagging him off. He's telling the truth. But when your ex-players are basically saying, I wouldn't go to Man United, it's a bad place to go, how do we get better then? How do we get better? Maybe he is telling the truth, but how do we get better then? Because we need these players to come. You know, I'm not going to sit on I'm not going to sit on a video and go, yeah, Cunha would be a great player for Man United, but I don't think he should come. We're such a shit club. I don't think he should come. And that's the difference between a fan and what is happening there, because I'm never going to sit here and go, Cunha shouldn't come to Man United. We're a terrible football club. He's wasting his career. I'm like, I don't give a shit whether we are a terrible football club. I don't give a shit if it is a bad decision. For me, for my mental health, I want better players at the club. So, I don't know. I mean, Trisfit says, is he cock blocking United? I don't know. But I think there's a lot of people who've reacted to it in quite a negative way to Paul Scholes. He's got... The genius thing about it is it's honest. But the problematic thing about it is that you want your ex-players to be a little bit more ambassadorial in relation to getting these players to come to Manchester United, really. But maybe some people are saying I'd love for him to call out the owners in the same way. Maybe just worded it wrong, says Jeans. On one hand, you say, United Spotlight says, on one hand, you say they don't say the truth, and when they do say the truth, pundits can't win either way. I don't think you listened to the last 10 minutes, did you, mate? What did I say at the start? I said I wasn't slagging Paul Scholes off. He's been ridiculously honest. And actually, I applaud him for being honest, but it doesn't help us as a football club when our ex-players, legends, are saying, I wouldn't sign for Man United, does it? It is honest. I applaud him for being honest. Just because somebody's honest doesn't mean I have to like it. If I go into the cupboard and my crunchy bar that I've been saving for Friday is gone, and I walk into the living room and I say, what's happened to my crunchy bar? And Seb's there with the wrapper saying, I've ate it. Well, I applaud you for being honest, but I'm not happy about it. I was looking forward to that crunchy bar, you know? So I'm not going to slag Paul Scholes off for being honest. But what I will say is I don't like the honesty because it doesn't help the club, does it? It doesn't help us if Cunha reads that and goes, maybe I am having second thoughts. But he's got a right to be honest as well. You see, this is the depth of knowledge this is why there are tiers to people's intelligence, because some people are very basic and they can't understand what we're talking about there. But some people are quite intelligent and they understand that you can respect an honest opinion but then go, I wish he hadn't said it because actually I'd rather he was saying, yeah, he'd be brilliant at Man United. He's exactly what Man United need. And I think it'd be a great move for him. I'd rather he said that, even if he was bloody lying, because I don't want Cunha not to come. And I think fundamentally as well, I'll stand by what I said before. We have got a collection of ex-players who are very rarely pleased. As I said last night, Wayne Rooney's talking about he'd play his strongest team in the Premier League. Ridiculous. You know, we had Neville and Keane after the Newcastle game making out like we'd lost the Champions League final. Like, there is a lot of negativity there. And maybe they're not fans. I don't know. Our ex-players have a reputation to keep before the club, the good of the club. I'm the great Paul Scholes is more important than our progress, says Nick P. Ray Carl Brown Amori says that's why the board has to make us better and back this new project they're doing. Paul ain't lying, we're 14th and we need improving. Thanks, Ray. Elliot says, sometimes it feels like pundits/former players make these inflammatory comments, so if they happen, they can say I told you so and look more credible in their roles. Dan Davies says, I don't think Cunha needs Scholes' help. He can see how bad we are by the league position in the media. Slow Sports News says, class of 92. However, United are not the same team and neither is the football. Cunha is a great player and I can't wait to see what Amrin will do with him. John says, he's not wrong about what he says, but we have to try to improve and move forward. It's just sad things are the way they are right now. And Cryptic South says, let Cherki sign for Werewolf FC. Don't sign him. And Malaki says, should Luke Shaw play as a left wing back long term or a left centre back? Long term, he needs to stay fit, mate, really. I think that's the thing I would say. Also, what I would say about Cunha as well, and I think it's important to say this, would Southgate get the same treatment as Ray? You've sort of read my mind a little bit here. This has been going on for years, and this is not necessarily Paul Scholes. With Jose Mourinho and the players he had, our ex-players were ridiculous towards him from a very early stage. Why was that? When Ollie was here, they were ridiculously positive towards him and Carrick and the team and Rashford and all the English players. We're back again now, aren't we? Where with Ten Hag, they were on him from day one. We all remember that interview that Carragher and Neville did. He'd not even had a match yet and they were on him. With Amrim, they're on him. And let's be honest, if Cunha signs for Manchester United, he's not going to be sharing a WhatsApp group with the class of 92, is he? He's going to be somebody who... Look, let's be honest, Cunha's relationship with the ex-players is going to be the same as the relationship with us. He's not going to be their mate. They're not going to be mates with him. So they don't have a cosy relationship with Amrim. They don't have a cosy relationship with these players like Cunha and Bruno. Whereas I think when it's people like Carrick or Ollie or Rashford or, you know, people that they know from the youth setup, they have a you know, a bit of favouritism there as well. And I think that's gone on for years as well. I think I've said this for a long time. Maybe there is a little bit of bitterness that they won things and they don't want anyone else to win things. Maybe there isn't. But I certainly think there is an underlying bias towards British and play people that they've worked with, comparable to the foreign contingent that come in that many of us, you know, appreciate and like. But ultimately, we're trying to build something new. And when Sir Alex Ferguson came into the club all those years ago, reputation didn't mean anything. He was building something new, which is why people like Paul McGrath and Norman Whiteside, etc., were moved on. And I doubt he was looking at Man United players in the media and what they thought. And also, let's be honest, how many times does Gary Neville talk about Man United in a week? How many times does Paul Scholes talk about Man United in a week? Quite a lot. They do quite a lot, whether it's on the TV, TNT, Sky, Overlap, whatever. They're asked about Man United a lot. And when they're asked about Man United, the producer before the show is saying we could do with something a little bit controversial here. They don't want bland. So you are going to... That's a sign of the times as well. Some of our ex-players don't want United back at the top, says Walking Alive. Well, and I understand that. I do understand that. You know, if you've been successful, do you want somebody else to be more successful than you? David Warwick says, I will say watch this space. Mendes was involved in a lot of transfer business last summer, and Cunha not a surprise due to Mendes Wolves connection. What do you think, Mark? I think that's a very intelligent comment, David. I think that the relationship with George Mendes last summer was why we ended up with Agate and Yoro. Especially the Yoro deal just felt like an absolute worldie of a signing when Real Madrid were looking at him. So I think that, very, very honest opinion there is that George Mendes could have a very, very big part to play in Manchester United's summer. Of course he could. Absolutely no doubt about it at all. But I also feel that we've got to look at... We don't need George Mendes to bring in kids. That's what Jason Wilcox is going to do. So if we're going to use George Mendes, hopefully we can utilise him on, better deals like last year. Sam Sargent has been a member for 44 months. Here's to Thursday. Yeah, can't wait. We're going to do the preview live at 2 o'clock if you can tune in for that one, by the way. More and more people are getting in contact with me about their, arguably their best player, Sansei, apparently might be out for the season. So it's definitely looking like he's out on Thursday. Ryan says, how is Cunha's work rate off the ball? Completely and utterly irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. I don't know why. I've never, ever, ever, ever seen a stat about how much a player walks since time. But Man United get linked to a player and suddenly we're getting top fives on who walks the least in the Premier League. Jack Grealish at Aston Villa was one of the best individualistic take-on players in the Premier League. Signs for Man City, never takes anyone on. So I don't really care what he does at Wolves. He's signing for Man United. And if Amrin wants him to run, I'm pretty sure he's going to run anyway. Why would I care about his walking stats for Wolves? He's going to play for Man United. So things will change. Could we offer Rashford and some cash for Gyokeres, says Tom. Absolutely not. He's not going to go to Sporting, is he? Early question mark. How are you feeling for Thursday, says Ray. Very excited. Very excited about it. I don't understand why anybody wouldn't be. Andreas says they're irrelevant now and tried to stay in the spotlight by stirring controversy. Thank you very much, Andreas. A lifetime supply of crunchies if Onana leaves, says Parker. Thank you very much. Let's sign De Bruyne if he wants to stay in Manchester United. Manchester, says Mazraoui. Yeah, I don't want De Bruyne at Manchester United. Absolutely not. I think there's standards on what you should and shouldn't do. This one might depress people a little bit, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't discuss it. So, news this morning is that having won their 20th title, Liverpool, they are going to reward Arne Slot with a huge transfer budget this summer. Depressing, isn't it? Not only are they a club on the up with a very, very good squad, a very, very good team. They've just won the Premier League. But on top of that, they're about to get a huge transfer budget for the summer. So a club that is our biggest rival, that is already miles ahead of us, is also going to have a lot more money to spend than us this summer. So you would envisage the gap is going to get bigger. So Jim Radcliffe can sit there at the end of the day and say, in 3 years' time, Project 2028. But this is exactly what some of us have been talking about. Man United's strategy and plan, slowly, progress, seems to be based on everybody else standing still. And many of you've said it many times. Why are we treated like idiots? Why do they talk to us about, yeah, we've got to be careful in the market, but we'll gradually get better? It's like saying, I'm going to win the marathon by jogging because we will get to the finish line. But then when you get to the big finish line, everyone else has been running and they finished ages ago. Just because you're going to get to the finish line doesn't mean you're going to win the race. And it feels like United are sort of jogging to the finish line when everyone else is running. But they're telling us, we will get to the finish line. Let's just be patient. And when we get there, we're going to be the best. Well, you're not, because everyone else is ahead of you and they're running and you're going too slow. So this is a prime example of that. We are going into a summer transfer window where we're being told, yeah, we're going to get Cunha, but we're also going to go for a cheap young striker, and we don't know what else we're going to do because we don't know whether we can afford it yet. But the best team in England is going to go and spend, £200, maybe £300 million. So we're here, they're there, we're spending this and they're spending that. It's just so obvious that we are going to fall further behind. And I think this is it's also an indicator of the nonsense that we get fed about you can be successful by taking your time and doing things strategically and within budget. We're not Sainsbury's. We're not the local pub. We're not a business. We're a football club. And if everybody else was doing it the way we were, then maybe there's a way you can do it through an Excel spreadsheet. But there's clubs out there that are spending money to win. And when they win, they make money and they spend it. And in football, the more successful you are, the more money you make. Chelsea are going to the Club World Cup where they'll get a £50 million handout minimum because they won the Champions League 4 years ago. Success brings money in football. It's a fact. If you finish 3 positions higher in the Premier League than where you are, you get £9 million. Success gives money. If you finish in the top 5 of the Champions League, you'll get £100 million next season just for being in the Champions League. If you finish 9th, you won't be in Europe. If you finish in 8th, you'll be in Europe and you'll earn somewhere between 20 and £50 million being in the Conference League or the Europa League. So success gives you money. And what this Liverpool story tells us again is that the more successful you are in football, the more opportunity you've got to spend. And yet we're sat here with owners telling us, don't worry, be happy. We're going to build an amazing stadium in 6 years where most of you won't be welcome because we want it to be a venue. And we're also going to win the league in 2028 because it fits in with a project that somebody strategized for us. And we figured out that if we spend little bits over the next few years, we'll gradually get better. No, you won't. No, you won't. And I'm just going to leave it at that because ultimately, realistically, fundamentally, we are saying the same things we've always said. When the Glazers were looking for investment or to sell, our only real hope was that we got people in who want to be successful on the football pitch and spend money to do that. And we didn't get that. We got a friend of the Glazers who wants to do what the Glazers want to do, which is regenerate an area to make money. And it's crazy. I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying, I think Sir Jim Radcliffe's made mistakes, but you've got to applaud him for the speed in which he's got this regeneration project up the ground. And I went, it absolutely stuns me that there are journalists out there who are so up the arse of Manchester United Football Club that they won't write the truth. Like we did the video weeks ago. We've mentioned it multiple times. There is a written legal document to Trafford Council from 2017 talking about this regeneration project. And it's not from Sir Jim Radcliffe, it's from the Glazers. I mean, how many more times does that need to be put out there? Why don't the Athletic write about it? Why don't the Manchester Evening News write about it? The Glazers wrote to Trafford Council about the regeneration project 8 years ago. Sir Jim Radcliffe's only been here a year. So whose idea was it? The Glazers bought property within the regeneration project that will go to private landowners over a decade ago. This is a Glazer project with Sir Jim at the front going, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, at the end of the day. You're all living a Glazer life. You don't realise it. You think because Sir Jim's got a British passport and he's a billionaire, you think he's running the football club. Everything we do is driven by Joel Glazer. Everything we do. And it always has been. And he is a puppet. He's a puppet to the Glazers. But this is, it might be the same in your country. It's scary in football in the UK how the truth gets hidden behind agenda and relationship, client journalism, as you call it. But Look, fundamentally, we all know about that. My point is, I'm not here to talk about that. My point is, our football club is a cash cow to the Glazers. Everything we do is for them to make money. The reason, I mean, I don't know why they're still here for many reasons, but the fact that they are still at this football club, having spent 18 months quietly trying to take us into a Super League, is a failure on everybody involved in football in this country. Not just Man United fans, the Premier League, everybody, the government. What they tried to do to our national game, they should have been kicked out of football forever. They went behind everybody's back for 18 months with Real Madrid and a couple of other clubs, forming a Super League that would have destroyed the fabric of football. And yet here they are a few years later, still in charge. They should have been booted out for good. They're a disgraceful set of people who have done a lot of bad things to this football club, but that was incredible. And then you got Sir Jim Radcliffe doing interviews, actually with his mouth, saying they're good people, they're good people. They're business people, they're mercenary business people, they're merciless business people. They don't care who they tread on as long as they get money. And unfortunately, they have a firm grip on our football club. And all they're bothered about is business. Business, 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 which is why they've put debt on the club. It's why they've took dividends out of the club. It's business, business, business. You look at Liverpool, maybe there's an element of that. Maybe there isn't. I don't know. But they've just won the league and they're going to give a lot of money to their owner, to their manager, to go and spend a load more money. Who's in the better position? Liverpool. Who's in a better position over the next 5 years? Liverpool. I don't know how, with a straight face, Sir Jim Radcliffe can sit there talking about Man United winning the league in the next 5 years. I just absolutely cannot see it. Cannot see how it's going to happen. We're going to be further behind Liverpool next season. We're going to be further behind Arsenal next season. Like, put it like this. When people talk about how are Man United going to win the league, I think going back to what we were saying about Cunha, bringing a player like that in is not a bad start. He ain't going to win us the league. It's not a bad start. You need about another 9 Cunhas, by the way. You need another 9 players like that to even start turning this ship around. But when I hear people talk about winning the title in 3 years, oh my God, I can't even be arsed. When I hear people talking about winning the title in 5 years, I'd never sit here and say it's impossible, but it looks impossible. Because if you're trying to catch somebody up, if somebody's like 100 metres in front of you and you're trying to catch them up, and as you're running, the gap's going to 110 metres, 120 metres, 130 metres, I think that's what's happening with United at the moment. I think the gap we're trying to close is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But the guys in charge are telling us that in 3 or 4 years, we'll be winning the league. But for the next 2 years, I can only see the gap getting bigger. So even if in year 3, we start to close the gap, that gap's really big. You're telling me we're going to close that gap in years 3 and 4. And what if we start closing the gap, but then other clubs respond? This is what I mean. This is football. It's not business. They're acting like everyone else is going to stand still and we'll slowly catch them up. What if we do start catching them up and then they go, Man United are catching us up, let's go again. And that's what happens in football. If the gap's really... Look at Brighton. Brighton are a prime example. For a few years, Brighton have been ahead of everybody else in relation to their recruitment. And they've gone from a club that I think could be a relegation club to a club that was knocking on the door of Europe. But recently, they can't go to that next level because everyone else is looking at what Brighton are doing and doing it themselves. So Brighton go from Championship, Premier League, relegation fodder, really well-run club, boom, 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 and everyone else is looking at Brighton. But then the growth stops because everyone's been looking at Brighton long enough to go, oh, we know what they're doing, let's do it ourselves. And then Brighton sort of hit a ceiling and everyone else goes, see you later. And that's how football works. Like, you don't just go, we're miles behind, we're going to catch you. Here we come, here we come, here we come. And everyone else goes, oh no, they're coming, they're coming, they're coming. They go, shit, they're coming, let's respond. And I just don't think we've got owners who really appreciate that. In football, you can't do it on an Excel spreadsheet. You just can't. You just can't. And we said this last night, is it the impossible mission for Amrim? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But it's certainly not something that I look at and go, hey, this is going to get resolved in 3 years' time. But the way you do resolve it is you go out, and this is why I get very sort of agitated by it. The way you solve it is that you go out and you buy the best you can get. And I think we've spoken about that for a very long time, haven't we? You have to go out and get the very best that you can get. Yeah, a few people talking about Gyokeres this morning. Look, I think we've got to win the Europa League. And I'm okay with that. I would say the chances of us signing Gyokeres are small based on what I've been told over the last 3 months. Bottom line with Gyokeres is, and it hasn't changed for quite a while, and I think David Ornstein would be happy to be putting this out if he was asked, and I think Fabrizio Romano would be happy to put this out if you asked him. The story on Gyokeres has been for quite a while that Manchester United don't want to spend that amount of money on a player who's over 26. Now, I hope that's not true, because it's the biggest load of shit I've ever heard. But that's the official line that's coming out. Man United don't want to spend that amount of money on a player that's over 26. So they don't want to spend £60 million on a player that's over 26. I can't remember how old Cunha is, but he ain't far off 26. And we're about to spend £26 million on him. Yeah, so Cunha's 26 next month, and we're going to spend £60 million on him. So the story is flawed, but that was the story that was coming out in sort of February, January time. And this is the thing about this club: they can't lie straight in bed. So we don't want to spend over £60 million on a 26-year-old striker, because that's not our strategy anymore. But we're going to do it on Cunha. So maybe that will change, but that was always the story about Gyokeres. I hope that if we win the Europa League, we're going to go straight back in and go, let's get the deal done. But we have to win the Europa League to do it. And I believe we will. And if we win the Europa League and we're in the Champions League, I wouldn't be going into it with Liam Delap. But maybe that's what I think that's what United probably will do. Who would you rather have out of Cunha and Gyokeres? We shouldn't have to choose. I would do it for content, but we shouldn't have to choose. If you're choosing between one or the other, it goes back to what I just said before. If I've got to choose between Cunha and Gyokeres, I'm never going to get in the top 6. And if that's the choices Amrim's got to make, he's never going to be successful. And the scary thing is, he might have to make that choice. You're never catching teams up if you've got to choose. You've got to get both and more. So I'll make that very, very clear. You don't choose. If you're choosing, you're screwed. But if I had to choose between Cunha and Gyokeres, it's a good one, because I think Gyokeres is essential to have an experienced striker to work alongside Erasmus, to have that experience, etc. But then you go back to what we've seen over the last 8 years and you go, he won't get service. Cunha providing service to Erasmus is better than Gyokeres getting no service from Garnacho and whoever else. So it's not that easy. I would rather go for, I'd like to say Gyokeres, but the way the team play, I think Cunha is probably more important, really. And I've said that before. Cunha would be my dream signing this summer, because I think that's him. Odds have drifted him to Arsenal and come in for us, says Robert McCormack. What, Gyokeres? Oh, mate, I would love it. I tell you what, all is not forgiven with Sir Jim, because he's a puppet to the Glazers, and I'll never forgive the Glazers. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't acknowledge a good summer transfer window like I did last year. If we got Gyokeres and Cunha, what a start that would be. I'd love it. Sir Jim needs to get innovative to get past the PSR rules. He can buy the naming rights of Old Trafford through Ineos or something like that, says Rajaf. Oh, mate, there's loads of ways they could get money into the club. If we sell Onana, do we have enough dough to get a decent goalkeeper, says Mrs. Stone. I don't know what the decent goalkeeper would be. I think we'll go for a younger goalkeeper. Yeah. The problem is the training. Maguire against Garnacho now versus Ferdinand against Ronaldo then need experienced signings, says Sudaf. I was talking to John Terry about this a few weeks ago, and I can't remember whether I said it on here or That's Football. I was talking to John Terry when I was down at Baller League a few weeks ago, and I was saying to him, who's the best striker he ever played against? And he said Thierry Henry. And then I said, in fairness, you didn't play against him, but I did think Drogba was a good player. And he said, for me as a player, you'll never understand how good a player I became because you're playing matches at the weekend, coached by Jose Mourinho, etc., playing for England, playing against all these good players. But then Monday to Friday, I'm training directly against Didier Drogba. Like, that's my sparring partner. And it's true what you say there. Like, if you're an Arsenal player, your defence is up against Saka and Odegaard in training all week. If you're a Man City defender, you're up against people like Haaland and De Bruyne all week. And we used to have that at United. You know, we'd have Vidic and Rio playing against Rooney and Tevez and, you know, Saha and Ronaldo, obviously. And at United, we've got, like you say, you've got Lindelof marking Rasmus. You've got Maguire marking Xerxes. And now that's nothing against those four players, but the better players you have, the better your training will be, the better you will be. It's a revolving cycle. And this is why in training, if you're training against kids who are developing, how do they develop when they're training against more kids? You know, if I'm Garnacho or I'm Delap or I'm Dorgu and I'm training against Mainu and Amas and, you know, Luke Shaw and Mason Mount are never there because they're injured, I'm looking around and I've only got 5 or 6 experienced players. Whereas when you were Gary Neville and David Beckham coming through, you're looking around and there's like 15 experienced good players. You're going to develop quicker. You're going to learn more. And that United just need to create that environment as quickly as possible. Thanks everybody for watching. I am back at 2. Live Athletic Club Bilbao, as I call them, preview. Live at 2. Unless something else breaks, that's the plan at 2 o'clock. Really excited about it. Looking forward to it. And Sir Jimny, I've done that one from Rajaf. Thank you everybody this morning. Apologies for any problems with the stream. It was out of our hands completely. There was never any dropped things from ours, so it must have been something to YouTube. If you did have a problem, just close it and start again. Appreciate that. Back at 2. Take care. Speak to you all in a bit.